Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a follow-up on last week's video, New Production Type 2 Cassettes. If you haven't seen that video, check it out above and then come back. Now that video went crazy, getting 20 times my normal amount of views within the first 48 hours. The comment section went crazy as well, and I'm still replying to all those comments. I'll get there, but it'll take a while. Now, while the response was generally quite positive, it did come up multiple times in the comments that the recording seemed to lack top end. I agree with you. This was not only the first test of the new ATR tape, but also the first real test of that BIC deck. I'm going to be doing some testing and adjustments behind the scenes as needed to get it sounding its best, if it wasn't already. Now, in the conversations that I've had with all of you in the meantime, it came up over and over that we really need to use a time-tested, properly calibrated deck for the test. Totally agree. It was also suggested that we compare the new tape to some vintage ones as well. Many of you think that the new old stock tapes are going to outperform the new one. I tend to agree, but time will tell. I also read multiple times that the new production tapes from RTM, or Recording the Masters, are superior as well. Now, thanks to one-day shipping from Amazon, I also have one of those that we can try out and compare as well. So buckle in, we have a lot of testing and comparing to do. Stay tuned. Now, I want to lay out my plans for this testing so that you all know what to expect and what I'm going to be doing. I have the new production tape from ATR that we tested last week. I'm going to be using side B, so we aren't recording over anything. It'll be new and fresh. We're also going to use this new RTM tape. It's a Type 1, but everybody says that it's going to be superior to anything else that's on the market new. It's based on the SM900 tape that has been famous in the reel-to-reel space for years, and it's a really good looking tape too. Now, I'm also going to be using this brand new Maxell MS-60, which is their studio tape. It's the XL-II chrome formulation, so this will be our new old stock tape from back in the day to compare to. As far as the tape deck goes, we're going to be using my tried and true daily workhorse, my Tascam 112. This deck sounds excellent, and I've cleaned the heads before this test. I've run some test recordings to be sure everything is in perfect working order. I do want to remind everybody, though, that this is not a channel or a test for audiophiles. I know that a Nakamichi Dragon would be the preferred deck and the best one that you could get, but on this channel, we're more about vintage tech for the masses, recording and enjoying analog media for just the normal guy. I think a Nakamichi can make even a junk tape sound pretty good, and that's not really what we're going for. I want to use something that's more in line with what a normal person would be using. So that's my Tascam. I've picked a music selection that should give us a good read on the high end as well as dynamic range. We could definitely have picked multiple songs to test with, but I also didn't want this video to be so long that it puts you to sleep either. My Tascam deck is not a 3-head unit, so we can't switch between the source and the tape in real time. That was my main reason that I used that BIC in the other video. So I'm going to record all of the tapes, and then I'm going to play them back into my Motu M2 capture device into Samplitude Pro X7 Studio. I'm not going to add any effects or corrections to the recording. They'll be just raw. What you hear is what has been captured directly back into the system. I'll switch between the source and all of the tape recordings as we go along, in the editing. So, with that said, let's jump into part 2 of this series and put these tapes to the test. Now, just a quick rundown of the tapes and my thoughts on them before we listen to them. The first tape we're going to use is the ATR Magnetics, the Cobalt Gold series. This is the one that we reviewed in the last video. Now, I still think it's a good looking tape. It has the simulated reels, blue and gold, very nice, heavy construction, screwed together. I still think it's a great looking tape, but we're going to get to see this time if it really is $22 worth of good brand new tape. Now, secondly, we're going to be taking a listen to the RTM, the Recording the Masters brand new tape. These are about $9 a piece. Now, it is a Type 1 tape, but I think the case looks great on this. The tape itself is nothing to write home about, but they do have their branding on the case, which is nice. It's also screwed together construction. Tape's nice and dark. Looks pretty good. So hopefully this one will sound nice. And then finally, our new Maxell. This is their MS-60, what they call their studio tape. This was an XL-II formulation chrome tape from the, I believe the early 90s, late 80s. I used these a lot when I was younger, and they always sounded great. So it's going to be 2 Type 2 tapes versus 1 Type 1 tape. We'll see how they look. Now we're going to start off with our ATR tape. We'll get it put in the deck here, and we're going to go ahead and record across our music file to all 3 tapes, and then through the magic of editing, we'll listen to all of them back to back. So now my final thoughts. Well, I'm happy that my BIC tape deck wasn't as bad as we all were thinking. On the other hand, I'm really disappointed in the ATR Cobalt tape. To me, it sounded like a mediocre Type 1, and maybe even a little bit worse. I intentionally didn't drive this one as high and hard as I normally would a Type 2, just based on what happened in the first test. The high end was really muddy, and it was lacking all the way around. You know, when I bought this tape, I also bought a 5-pack of the standard Cobalt, which is their Silver series. I'm sad to say that I will probably not be using these. It's very disappointing, especially since I use their reel-to-reel tapes all the time, and they sound excellent. Now, on the other hand, I'm very impressed with our lone Type 1 tape, the RTM C60, made by Recording the Masters. It sounded excellent for a ferrite cassette. It retained a lot of the high end, and it didn't seem to get overwhelmed with the bassier parts either. Overall, I'd say that I'll probably be stocking up on these. They're very impressive. Perhaps this comes down to the fact that they're based upon the SM900 master tape formula, which is a time-tested and excellent sounding tape. Now finally, our vintage tape, the Maxell MS-60. I don't think anyone was surprised that it sounded the best. I felt like it was the closest to the original recording. The highs were crisp, like you'd expect from a Type 2 tape, and it retained great low end as well, which is something that chrome tapes generally don't really do very well. So what do you think? Do you agree with my assessments of these tapes? Let me know in the comments below. Are there any other new production tapes that you think I should know about, test, and try out? What are your favorite tapes from the past? Everyone has their favorites. That's all that I have for this week. Please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And we'll see you next time here on the Vintage Electronics channel.